Your windows closed?
Mine are.
Yeah, yeah.
Just need to deal with
These
glare
advertisements.
going home.
That should go to the heat wave.
I hope so.
Sorry?
I hope that we don't have any fallen trees again.
Good evening from the Tibet Center in South Orange, New Jersey. So, Tony, Darren always asks me to ask people to follow. Is that right? Follow?
Like, follow, and subscribe.
Like, follow, and subscribe. And so, prayers that we will say first are all located underneath in the FAQ section. So we'll begin with the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dhamma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. Now the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi which examines the Dharma called profound illumination, and at the same time noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form, emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tadyata Om Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. O Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the bodhisattva mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering, and the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So now we shall do one rosary of the Medicine Buddha mantra, which should be marked underneath the screen on our website. So we will recite Tadyata Om Tadyata Om Binganse Maha Binganse Raja Samudgati Svaha. Tadyata Om Binganse Maha Binganse Raja Samudgati Tadyata Om Binganse Maha Tadyata Om Binganse Tanyata Om Bhigate Bhigate Maha Bhigate Rata Samudgate Svaha. So, we have been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. You have it, or you don't have it? Do you have a copy of it? Sorry?
I have it at home.
Okay. All right. Would you like to borrow one?
Yeah, I'll get one. Barrett?
Yeah.
Copies of it?
His watch is coming out on the mic.
Your watch is coming up on the mic.
So, we have reached chapter 6.
We started last night.
So there's some. I will reread. So before that, page 70, 71, His Holiness writes, I suggest that in reality there is no conflict between the principle of justice and the practice of compassion and forgiveness. The very concept of justice should be based, or is based, on compassion. If ethics is understood only as a mechanism for maintaining social order, then it will cover only those aspects of our outer human behavior which have a direct and observable impact on others. And if it only relates to the impact of our actions on others, in effect to the consequences of our actions, then whatever feelings and intentions we may harbor in our hearts will be irrelevant or neutral with regard to ethics. This I cannot accept, says His Holiness. And so the whole idea is that the quality of an action, that which makes it ethical, that which makes it moral, that which makes it virtuous, is the motivation with which it is engaged in, the motivation that accompanies it. So actions are not limited to physical actions or verbal actions. The most important actions are our mental actions. And those mental actions accompany the physical and verbal actions. And it is the mental actions that actually determine the quality of the others. The mental action is the most important thing. So, the very notion of ethics makes no sense without a consideration of motivation. The idea of moral responsibility presupposes the presence of some inner motivation. This inner motivation dimension of ethics is the most important aspect. When our motivation is pure, genuinely directed towards the benefit of others, our actions will naturally tend to be ethically sound. This is why I consider compassion to be the core principle on which an entire ethical approach can be built. It is from a compassionate concern for the welfare of others that all other ethical values and principles arise, including that of justice. So this is His Holiness's explanation of how compassion would accompany a just system of justice, and how a just system of justice would need to have compassion as an element in it. So that is the prerequisite to where we are now.
Maybe a fair system of justice. Maybe.
Just and fair.
Just.
Just justice is fair justice. Fair justice is just justice. I think just means fair. Yes?
Yes. Just, yes. Just.
Just and fair mean the same thing? If something is just, is it fair? If it's fair, is it just?
One has a legal aspect to it, I think. Fair is just a regular, everyday use. I think, I don't know, we're cutting hairs here.
You have to Google it.
No, let's not. That'll last all night. We'll end up shopping at Amazon.
So this, I should say to the people online and the people here, the crowds out there.
Something get in.
I know, but I hope the loudspeaker works. Anything you want to say, anything you want to share, anything you want to contribute, please interrupt. This is meant to be a discussion. So, just and fair, we're beginning with as a.
Department of Fairness, no, Department of Justice. We can play the words down.
So until now, I have emphasized the importance of compassion, a motivation of genuine concern for others. Oh, are you Googling just and fair? Oh goodness, I like that.
All Google delete Amazon. Be careful.
Google is determining.
No, I just said it to avoid confusion.
You just said it.
I just said it, that's right.
Was your
Yeah,
saying of it
justly
just?
say it.
Yes.
No. Please truly meet in justice, none of that in the Bible.
So, to continue, now we're on page 73. Until now, I have emphasized the importance of compassion, a motivation of genuine concern for others' welfare, as the foundation of ethics and spiritual well-being, and even the basis for understanding justice, fairness. Yes.
Based on or behaving according to what is morally right and fair, a just and democratic society.
Mm-hmm.
That's adjective. Now, the other one was fair.
Fair. Mm-hmm.
They define each other.
Takes a couple seconds. My data's not so strong.
So,
But
yeah.
Fair is impartial and just without favoritism or discrimination. An example is that the group has achieved fair and equal representation for all of its members.
So I think we can say that just and fair can
yeah,
be.
they define each other.
So, recognizing our shared humanity and our biological nature as beings whose happiness is dependent on others, we learn to open our hearts, and in so doing, we gain a sense of purpose and of connection with those around us. Broad, unbiased compassion, I have suggested, is the ground for which all positive inner values, patience, kindness, forgiveness, self-discipline, contentment, and so on, emerge. And so I think that the recognition of our shared humanity and our biological nature is important, and recognizing that our happiness is dependent on others.
Yes.
As His Holiness says, this becomes the basis for our opening our hearts.
That's a strong statement. So happiness depends on others. People come to the conclusion, you would alter your habits a lot, I think. If you're really sure of certain, our happiness depends on others' happiness. That's an inner motivation, or once it clicks, it'll direct you nicely in life. Probably.
Well, he hasn't said whose happiness depends on others' happiness. He says our happiness is dependent on others.
On others, yes.
But that becomes the basis for all other virtuous or positive inner values, such as patience, kindness, forgiveness, self-discipline, contentment, and so
Those
on.
you can't develop without other people, especially patience.
However, while sound, compassionate motivation is the foundation of ethics and spirituality, a further factor is crucial if we are to achieve a balanced and genuinely universal system of ethics. While intention is the first and most important factor in guaranteeing that our behavior is ethical, we also need discernment to ensure that the choices we make are realistic and that our good intentions do not go to waste. So discernment is sort of like the intelligence that is needed in order for our intentions to be fulfilled ably, skillfully, but particularly ably. Yes?
Sorry, I'm a little bit out of it tonight. I'm a little tired. My mind is sort of wandering, sorry.
Join the club. Let them come here.
So, if our minds are wandering, broad, unbiased compassion is the ground for which even concentration is dependent. So, as you think about others, your concentration will. If, for example, the politicians take their countries to war without having fully considered the likely consequences, then even if their motivation is sincerely compassionate, the outcome is likely to be disastrous.
You see that?
What is required, therefore, in addition to good intention, is the use of our critical faculty, our discernment. The exercise of discernment, which enables us to relate to situations in a manner that is in tune with reality, enables us to translate our good intentions into good outcomes. So I would suppose that in your work at the United Nations, that discernment, the compassionate element must be there. That has to form the basis. But it is only if that compassionate quality or that compassionate motivation is accompanied by true discernment, an intelligence that understands how to apply that compassionate attitude, that you can get results. Yes?
Yes. The question is, I haven't figured that out.
You haven't figured what out?
How to apply the motivation to get results.
Perfectly, yeah. It's trial and error.
So the motivation is compassion. Accompanying that motivation has to be the ability to maneuver, to determine what can be done and how to go about doing it. But the compassion I mean, I do think that His Holiness is adding this quality of discernment into the picture, but we have to work at cultivating compassion. I mean, at my level, the ability to apply that compassionate skillfully, which needs discernment, is important. But the particularly important thing is the cultivation of the initial compassion, working at actually having the feeling of wishing to remove the suffering of others, wishing to provide them with what they need. That's, I know in my case, very limited and really needs to be. But once one has actually developed.
Well, uncontrived compassion, let's say.
Yes, once one
Great,
has.
great compassion.
But once one has begun to develop this, even before you're talking about levels of compassion that are quite high. But once one has developed a concern for others, and a wish to be of benefit to them, and a wish to be able to remove their suffering, a wish to have them free of their suffering, just a little bit of that. Along with that, there has to come a certain intelligence about how to go about it.
For instance, giving aid to poor countries, you don't discern, you might be giving aid and the crooks take all of it, things like, so you have to think it through. It's not enough to say, look, I'm gonna give all my money to so-and-so, and then what? Chung's famous words, and then what? So we have to have the ability, in other words, so we could see it, giving money, giving aid to Gaza wound up in the hands of some people that were not honest. And so the fact, we heard, not all. But that could be an example, that's what he's saying. The intention's very good, but you didn't follow through with the results of your action. What would they be? And could you do it a different way to make it successful?
And it gets really complicated. It gets really intricate. And the ability to truly see the most skillful way to go about applying a compassionate attitude demands a wisdom that is
The Buddha's wisdom.
the Buddha's wisdom, and the reason that we cultivate bodhicitta with the aim of attaining Buddhahood is that it is only with that omniscient mind that one can be truly beneficial to all.
Absolutely.
So discernment also plays a crucial role in generating our own personal level of ethical awareness, using our intelligence in the way we come to is the way we come to understanding, and understanding is the basis of awareness. So ethical awareness, that is to say, awareness of what will benefit both oneself and others, does not arise magically, but comes from the use of reason. In this, education in ethical awareness is no different from any other kind of education.
That makes it simple.
And pursuing this education, actually working towards developing this, is a moral responsibility that we assume. This is quite useful because we often talk about the cultivation of compassion as being, something that you do sitting on your meditation mat and really working at recognizing your own suffering, recognizing the fact that we are dependent on others for everything that we have, recognizing that they are suffering in the same way that we are, and out of that process of thought will come quite naturally this wish to remove their suffering. That's compassion. But sitting on our meditation mats and thinking about this is not going to actually, in a practical way, alleviate their suffering. That we have to do by means of applying discernment, by means of scrutinizing and determining what would be helpful and how to go about how we can actually engage in applying that. So that's useful.
Yeah, it's less fuzzy, there's an actual progress. People meditating compassionately drift, it's really wonderful.
Well, in the ninth step, is it ninefold practice of bodhicitta, or I forgot the different numbers?
Sevenfold?
You actually imagine certain people, like real life situations, and what you can do to remedy, to help them. So that's actual sort of practice right there.
Yes, but it's imagination.
Yes, but at least you can prepare yourself for what the wish, of how to actually have to remedy, what is the remedy for that. You can at least think about that and then try then to apply it later on.
So, that trying to figure out how to apply it in a skillful way, in a non-harmful way, in the most effective way, all of that is discernment. So establishing inner values. All of our actions have consequences, and these inevitably have an impact on both ourselves and others. Since in everyday life we can constantly have to make small decisions which have this ethical dimension, it is very helpful to have basic ethical rules or guidelines to fall back on. Even the choice of which products to buy or what food to eat involves some ethical discernment. When making such choices, we generally do not have the opportunity to think through all the options available and reflect on all probable consequences on a case-by-case basis. In fact, if we were to reflect deeply on every single ethical choice we face, I don't think we would have much time left for anything else. For those occasions when we do not have time to work things out in detail, it is useful to have internalized general rules to guide our actions. The major religions of the world are all rich in such guidelines. And when these rules are inculcated from an early age, they become part of a person's internal value system. For example, in traditional Tibetan society, Buddhist principles of avoidance of causing harm to animals was a value that people acquired from the cultural environment. From a young age, well, in this respect, I want to plug these Tibetan nannies, who are the most popular nannies in New York today. Friends of mine who have Tibetan nannies tell me that they particularly appreciate the fact that these nannies introduce to their tiny little, what would you call it? Charges.
That's the old word.
The concepts of concern for others, of love, of care, of compassion. That this is something that the parents of these charges notice. And it's made the Tibetans the most popular governesses.
Zeri. She was Billy Joel's narrator. But even Steven Seagal was a gruff and nasty person. He had a Tibetan nanny and he praised her. he got it through Kemp to Rinpoche, that's the connection, but, I mean, he's not.
Do you
So-
think the children came out any differently as a result? Did they-
Probably, he didn't come out like him. I hope not, we don't know. But the lady here sure embodies that. You could see her.
Who's this?
No, but
Sarah.
without talking about individuals, the it is evident that the influences that a little child has will really be important to that child. And if a little child is influenced by someone possessing a compassionate demeanor, someone who introduces the whole idea of concern for others, concern for other sentient beings, concern for the worms and bugs and whatever, and being concerned about not stepping on insects. All of these things are going to influence that child, and I think it's truly wonderful that
It's in the
this
society,
Tibetan community has brought this to the Upper East Side of Manhattan, for example.
Even when I first went to Tibet, and I was amazed that when I dropped something, that all the Tibetans were going to help pick it up, or I spilled something. Without being asked, it was like an impulse reaction they had.
So in the monastery, or in any Tibetan community, if you have like ants crossing the pathway,
They make a, I think you told us this, they make a line or sign to
they'll
avoid that.
put white powder, something on either side so that one won't step on the ants.
That's great.
And during monsoon, you have little insects all over the place, and there's a real intention. There's an effort made to not kill.
And everything comes out of the ground, and I guess, remind me to stay away from bugs.
So,
Might be one coming tonight.
from a young age, children were taught to avoid killing even insects, so this avoidance became internalized and automatic. If they accidentally happened to step on an insect, they would say, "Aka ninje," which means, "Oh, poor thing." In Tibetan in the past, there was... do you hear that a lot?
Say "Aka."
Aka means, oh. Ninja is the word for compassion, but ninja, ning is the heart, and so it's the development of the heart.
Yeah. One of the non-gals monks explained that like ninja, the impulse for it. Very interesting, something like that.
In Tibet, in the past, there was actually legislation banning hunting and fishing, except in a few areas where people's livelihood depended on these activities. There were also more specific laws protecting wildlife, such as regulations concerning the migration of birds that nest around the Manasovar and other lakes. Paid rangers ensured that their eggs were not disturbed. These regulations are examples of the way the prevailing culture helped to form people's ethical priorities.
Amazing.
Yes, no, it's
That's
very.
the level where it seeps down to everyday life.
It's something that living in a Tibetan community, you really see people applying their ethical values to the point that we would consider would be harmful to us. And here there's the story of the Geshe who comes to the mother says to her daughter, if one of those Geshes comes, don't let them in the house because they're just troublemakers. And this pious monk arrives and asks if there might be a place for him to stay, and the daughter says, of course, and lets him in. And as he's sitting saying his prayers, then the daughter is sweeping, and there's a little insect, and she picks it up and says, I've got to put this in some place where it won't die. And the monk says, oh, I'd like to go to that place too. And the mother says, you see, I told you not to let one of those monks in.
That's a good one.
So, yes, the whole notion that there's no place where you avoid death is also something that is part of the culture. It's something that everyone gets. But in a purely secular context, although people, of course, still have ingrained values, what these are cannot always be taken for granted. Some actions, such as killing, stealing, lying, slander, and sexual exploitation, all of which are forms of violence, are by definition harmful to others. So most people instinctively feel the value of avoiding them. But we need to go further than this in a globalized world in which religious moral guidelines are not universally accepted. We need to use our discernment to gain understanding about the benefits of certain kinds of behavior and the negative consequences of others. In this way, we can develop an internalized value system to guide us in our responses to everyday life. There were little things appearing on
It
here.
obviously works, because if they have this, you can see in the Tibetan society, if they have this internalized value system, without memorizing it, it's just there. So it's possible, in other words, we could do that too.
So yes, but what is we do? I mean, there are those things, killing, etc., that are evident. They're clear. We know. We can understand. But there are times when it's less clear, and that's where discernment is necessary. So the development of discernment is what His Holiness is introducing us to. We need to use our discernment to gain understanding about the benefits of certain kinds of behavior and the negative consequences of others. In this way, we can develop an internalized value system to guide us in our responses to everyday life. What is therefore required is that we reflect on our behavior using our discernment to assess which of our actions are most harmful to ourselves and to others, and which are most beneficial. In so doing, we can gradually learn to identify those aspects of our conduct which need to be curbed and those which need to be cultivated. So, His Holiness has sort of basically shown us the logic behind discernment, and the importance of cultivating the method by which we gradually learn to identify those aspects of our conduct which need to be curbed and those which need to be cultivated. So in a sense, this is a secular presentation of mind training, the method by which we train our minds to naturally act ethically and refrain from acting unethically. For example, by using our discernment to consider the consequences of violence, we can gradually reach a clear understanding and conviction of its harmfulness and futility. Similarly, by using our discernment to reflect on the consequences of patience or generosity, we can come to understand their positive effects, and we can nurture this understanding so that it becomes a deeply ingrained part of our awareness. When this happens, we will find that our behavior is spontaneously more oriented towards the well-being of others. This kind of mental training is a theme to which I will return in the second part of the book. So, based on that, what do you have to say?
What just randomly comes to my mind is, in my situation, I think if you have a good marriage, your partner will be able to help you with discerning what is morally good and what is morally bad. Like, if I do something stupid or careless, my husband will pick that up and say, hey, you did this. This is the consequence of what you did.
I'm straight.
Yeah, I'm very
He's
lucky
a
that
Tib-
he's an ex-monk, because he has that quality, and he's Tibetan, so he has that quality, just like the nanny. So I have a nice nanny
He
taking
does,
care
no,
of me.
he does have that motherly approach. He
Did you
always
hear
helps.
that, honey? Oh, is it?
He always helps me, Gorilla, who things up for me, right? He found me the house, he never.
So I don't think that we can approach this advice by His Holiness saying, oh yes, the method by which I will apply discernment is by relying on my spouse. I think that we have to develop that in ourselves.
But how do you do that? It's so
The
difficult to
examples
know
of it.
sometimes if you're doing something right or wrong.
Well, if out of our training in ethical behavior, we develop the ability to discern. And this is what His Holiness is saying. If we devote a little bit of time to analytical meditation, to understanding, to really seeing what is a selfish action and what is a selfless action, seeing and determining that we are going to work at engaging in actions that are of greater benefit to others rather than simply pleasing ourselves. If we develop that awareness, then when we go out into the day and live, we will more naturally tend towards engaging in those actions that are of benefit to others, and we will develop the muscle that helps us hold back from engaging in those little selfish, self-centered, self-cherishing actions. But very important is that at the end of the day, we scrutinize, we look over our day, we really identify, oh my goodness, that was so stupid of me to say that. That was just selfish, that was just gratuitous the way I treated that person. I've got to refrain from doing that. I've got to shut up. I've got to. And if you actually say that to yourself, and then in the next morning you say, I recognize that, and I've really got to work on that. That develops that muscle. And if you can,
It's very hard. The night inventory, I find myself embarrassed at myself, and so I don't want to hear it. But it's true. You're hitting a nerve when you get that feeling. It's a night inventory and morning. Perfect.
setting of the motivation, because we cannot expect ourselves to have that restraint on the spur of the moment. Eventually we can get better at it,
Good point.
but we will only get there by sitting down and thinking about, and when you're thinking about pride and arrogance and those ways of behaving that we all have a little bit of, if not a lot of. And if we can really think in the morning about the ugliness of it, and you think of, I mean, we have the extraordinary good fortune of having had a teacher whose essence was humility and whose effectiveness was really due to that humility. It was through humility that he was able to accomplish so much. And if we can really, in our minds, conjure up memories of the skillful ways in which he was able to operate through humility, and develop a real appreciation for that humility. All those thoughts, and you think of someone whom you've seen act particularly arrogantly, and you think of the ugliness of that. All of those thoughts are analytical meditation. They are the method by which we ourselves develop humility and diminish its opposite, its ugly opposite.
Sometimes I also think that you don't see the consequences of your actions. The person doesn't see that.
The more you consider, the more you'll see. It's like how you get to Carnegie Hall. Practice. You become far more discerning by doing it. And if we just sort of let our behavior happen.
That's what I do. I just let it happen. Yeah, I don't really practice.
Very hard.
But this is, His Holiness has said, if you were to really try to discern in respect to every moment, you'd spend your whole life doing just that. And actually, they talk about the great Kadampa masters practicing mind training who spent their whole lives. There's the master who on the wall would make a black mark for every non-virtuous thought he had, and a white mark for any virtuous thought. And at first, the wall was black, and slowly but steadily it got whiter. Well, and that is considered to be a very beneficial and well-used life. We are not meditators living in caves and just watching our minds. We are living in the world. And as we live in the world, we have to actually apply, we have to be able to navigate the world with virtuous thoughts, having developed the muscle that refrains from engaging in non-virtue, in selfishness, etc. So,
Did I tell you I was thinking of painting my house black?
paint your house white, unless you want a good blackboard on which to do this.
I only have non-virtuous thoughts.
So, this is it's very interesting to hear mind training, Lojong, be presented in this
Yes.
totally secular way.
But it's the same thing. It's core. It's the core of it.
And actually, Lojong, mind training isn't religious. It's with a certain ethical training, let's say, and whether it's Christian or Jewish or Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist, with that sort of ethical framework, the application of it is mind training, and
Universal.
it's universal, and it's a religious basis. The dogma that accompanies religion is not necessary, and that's why it's beyond religion. So, are there, Darren, are there any questions or remarks online? Okay. Our online viewers seem to
I
be.
would say that overall, it's a very difficult practice. It sounds very, very difficult to be able to really
Who names their questions?
be mindful.
I'll hand you a towel, look like you need a shower.
It's, yes, mind training is very difficult.
Yeah.
In this prayer book, do we have, no, we don't have the 8 verses on training the mind. Yes. So let's first recite the 8 verses on training the mind. Yeah. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others, out of jealousy, treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness, directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. So now we will read the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble 3 Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He has perfected all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavat is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberated from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha of the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore their fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. Now let us read the prayer for a swift return of Dr. Kyung Rinpoche. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lobsang Tumong Dorje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the victor Lobsang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that the worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and the wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Losang Tempe. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wishes, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Thank you.
Thank you, Khensur.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Much appreciated. What happened there?